In the cold, dark halls, the sound of metal footsteps on stone can be heard. Large automatons patrol, keeping a watchful eye for intruders. As two pass each other, something groans from within. In the shadows of the cage is a prisoner, held captive in the belly of the guard. Seldom escape the walking prisons that guard the wizard's tower. When I first saw this mini, my immediate thought was, imagine if my party got caught by these. Wouldn't it be a great image? A wizard's tower guarded by these magical sentries, where the sentries themselves are the prison. Now that I've gone over some of the inspiration I've gotten from this miniature, let's dive in and take a look at what we can do with this. Today we're looking at the Shard Sentry, which can be purchased from Arcane Minis on the myminifactory website. You can purchase the Shard Sentry for $15, which for 3 models is a bit expensive, but for the customization and interesting scenario this creates, it's decent value. I'm printing these minis on an Anycubic Photon. Printing the body of these minis takes up to 30 hours, the door takes around 12 hours, and the arms up to about 20 hours. The thing these minis don't come with is a base, so you will need to source that yourself. I've made my own simple base for this, so if you'd like to use that, feel free to download that from the link in the description below. Another thing to note is I made these bases at a 75mm scale, which is a huge creature in Dungeons and Dragons, and as you can see, at 100% scale, these minis still don't quite fit on the bases. I could have made the base larger again, but due to it already being a 75mm base, I thought that was large enough. Now, let's see how we can paint this mini up. The first thing we're going to paint is the golden colour for the top, middle and legs. This is done with a base of saddle brown and coated with the brass colour. I made the mistake of painting the brass first. I went back and covered that with the brown and then did the brass over the top. This is so the black undercoat doesn't show through the brass. For the body, I used dark Prussian blue as the base coat, after which I'll be looking to do some form of blue-green blend. The bar's base coat is going to be London Grey, just like the brown is going to prepare the metallic colour going on top. Again, we're just adding the brown base coat for the feet, knees and hip joints, and then coating with the brass. The base of the cell is brown, as I'm going to try for a wood finish on that. Next, we're adding oily steel to the bars. Throughout the whole paint, I do go backwards and forwards between a mix of intermediate green and dark Prussian blue, sometimes more of one, sometimes more of the other, till I get a nice blend between the two. Next, I use the oily steel to paint all the bolts on the head and body. This includes the brass and the blue-green blend, as well as the rim around the gem. The gem itself, I'm starting with an extra dark green base, followed by intermediate green, lightened with some white, and then some white highlights on top. Here it can be difficult to see, but I'm adding a thin black, slightly shaky line to look like wood panels. For the gate, I'm painting it just like the rest of the bars, so a grey base coat, followed by the oily steel on top. For the arms, they follow a similar process as to the body, which is the blue-green blend on the shoulders and elbow, a base coat of brown and then a top coat of brass for the elbow joint on the inside and out, as well as any finger parts, and grey base to a steel top coat for the other metallic parts, as well as the bolts in a similar style to the body. For the base, I made a simple brick pattern that I'm covering with a base coat of brown, followed by a thin coat of tan earth, and dry brushing over Iraqi sand. To finish, I coat the rim in black to cover up any spillage from the dry brushing and to give it a more complete look. And that's it, we've now got 3 fully painted minis that we can use in games, but first we need to make some stats. I've derived a lot of these stats from golems that you find in the monster manual. The damage immunities, the condition immunities, magic resistance, and mutable form are all what you would find on a golem. Where things get interesting is the anti-magic cage. This is a wizard's sentry protecting a wizard's tower. For a cage to be effective against strong magical powers, it needs to be able to stop them teleporting out or using magical items, and an anti-magic field is the perfect solution to this issue. I want to point out here that we also are immune to non-magical weapons. So when someone is put inside the cage, they can no longer damage the sentry. This is a very potent way of capturing a character. So how do we capture a character? First of all, we're going to need to have them in our control, and secondly, we're going to need to have an ability that puts them inside the cage. This means we're going to need grapple abilities, and once a character is grappled, it can then be placed inside the cage. Let's look at how we transition a character from being grappled to being inside the cage. So when I designed this, I wanted the characters to have a chance to escape the grapple before they went inside the cage. So on one turn, the sentry will grapple an opponent, and on the next turn it will then put them inside. Now there are several conditions that need to be met to be put inside the cage. 1, the creature needs to be grappled. 2, it needs to be within 5 feet of the sentry. And 3, it needs to be at least one size category smaller than the sentry. With these conditions met, a grappled creature is then put inside the sentry and the cage instantly locks. The only way to escape is to do a DC 17 lockpick check. The last thing to speak about is the arm attachments for the sentry. Each sentry gets 2 arm attachments, 1 for each arm socket. There are 6 different attachments, but I've only chosen to design 5, as I think the hand falls under the claw category quite well. The claw is just a basic attack that does slashing damage on hit. The quarterstaff is the same as the claw, except we're now doing bludgeoning damage. The pincer would be the next step up, where we're doing piercing damage instead, but on hit you also get an automatic grapple. The grappling hook is my weapon of choice. It has the same damage as the claw and the pincer, but this attack is ranged, and you also get the grapple on hit. The last weapon is a shield, which gives a +2 static AC, and you do get an attack with this, which is the shield bash. It does do slightly less damage than the other attacks, but that is a compromise for the armor class. One strategy to keep in mind with the grappling hook is if you target a melee character and grapple them, they can no longer move towards you to get into range. This is a good way of slowing down any heavy hitters in the party. And that's it. We've got a new mini with new stats that we can use in game. Thanks for watching everyone. I hope you join me next time. Until then, keep on rolling.